All right, everybody, welcome back here. Global chip stocks have lost nearly 2.7 trillion since they topped out in late June. It was June 22nd, actually, where the semiconductor index peaked, and that was just not that long ago. And a lot of people are asking now, like, are we at the end of the road with AI? Is it time to really take profits? Are we moving beyond all of this? And so I wanted to kind of address all of this in this video, talk about where we've been, the little bit of a pullback here, and I've got some interesting things to tell you about Micron and Nvidia, two major players here in the United States. Of course, SK Hynix just went public on the U.S. stock market. That happened, not too long ago. They debuted on the U.S. markets on Friday, and they have looked really, really solid, obviously, throughout this entire build out. But we're going to talk about all of it in this video, and I really have to start with the $700 billion figure. You may have seen that in the title, probably wondering, like, what do you mean here? So despite this pullback we've seen, since June 22nd, despite all of that, we have a $700 billion profit that is basically the projection. They project that Micron and Nvidia are set to profit around 700 billion in 2027. And so the spending is still proliferating, meaning the early innings, I think, of this AI build out are still upon us. There's a pullback in the markets, but that's natural, especially after going up, 400, 500, 600%. You look at Micron, they offer, I think, one of the best examples of all of this in terms of their profit forecast. So their stock fell a little bit. People started freaking out. They're projected to earn 83 billion just the rest of 2026. They're expected to earn $176 billion in the fiscal year of 2027. All of this according to Bloomberg consensus estimates. And they earned 9 billion in 2025. I mean, you could see the growth happening here. People are worried because it's went up, so much, so drastically, so fast. And certainly there's going to be some pullbacks. If you look at their earnings from 2025, 9 billion, to their projected here in 2026 to 83 billion, but then to 2027, 176 billion. So if you're sitting here in Micron today and we're projected to double the revenue from this year, and we've seen the price performance this year, how on earth could you sit here and say that this is the end of the road and let's get out of all of this stuff? I'm going to continue to invest here. I think we're early innings. Now, I'm not going to stop here. I'll get into that later on in the video. I don't think this story stops just with Micron, the memory names. SK Hynix, Samsung, Micron, SanDisk. These names are going to be great, fantastic. You can get exposure to these in a lot of ETFs as well. I've been invested in the AIPO ETF all year here in 2026. It's been great. It's up dramatically. It's far outpacing the S&P 500, which is my goal. Instead of kind of DCAing into the S&P 500, I've been DCAing into the AIPO. I get exposure to names like Micron, Nvidia, AMD, all the big chip manufacturers. But in addition to that, there's a lot of the big power names in there like Eton and Vertiv and GE Vernova. And it's a nice mix. It's a nice mix to get exposure to the build out. I think the next big play, though, in addition to investing into Micron, Nvidia, SanDisk, the hyperscalers, all these big names that we've talked about and are being talked about, if you're looking for kind of the next thing, I think it's about which industries AI is going to impact and really change over the back half of this decade. We're sitting here, with basically 3.5 years left of this decade. And I think if we're wanting to invest in something today that we can look up in 2029, 2030 and say, yes, we nailed it. We got out ahead of it. We were first to this big move. I think it's which industries AI is going to touch and impact the most. So you look at, biotech, you look at, industrials, you look at humanoid robots. And when we say humanoid robots, it's not just the ones that emulate humans and clean your house. We're talking about humanoid robots that are inside factories, right? We know that Amazon has deployed a ton of these already and are super successful in doing so. They say about 50% of these warehouses are filled with robots and then 50% are humans. I think that's where we should be looking. Which industries is AI going to touch? Because we've spent so much time investing in the build out, people spending on the data centers. Now I think the story shifts to, all right, how is this going to change in the physical world? How is AI going to change the physical world? And that's where I'm looking. So I'm looking into robotics, right? I'm looking into industrial areas where I think robotics could have a huge influence. I'm looking into healthcare. I'm looking into biotech. These sort of areas that I look at in the next 3 to 5 years that, we could have just massive revolutions here and evolutions in these industries. And I think it's a great way to invest. So there's a couple different ETFs out there. One that I really like is BOT. This is Robo Strategy. You're getting exposure to a lot of the private companies, and you're hoping basically that there's a name in there like a ChatGPT or Anthropic. Think about this first part of this AI build out. These are all private companies, Claude with Anthropic, OpenAI, ChatGPT. These are all private companies now that are going public. If we can find one of those names now before they become a name that everybody knows, well, that's investing 101. That's being early. That's seeing something before the masses see it and actually taking action and getting into it. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm already invested in the biotech ETFs as well. ARKG, Kathy Wood's ARKG has looked very, very good here. Year to date, it's up over 47%. That's been a phenomenal trade over the last few months. I just recently got into it about a month ago. It's been great. I'm still looking there into the biotech and genomics, gene therapy with what CRISPR's doing. I mean, the progression that we're seeing in terms of like the anti-aging and biohacking and how it's going to be, proliferated by AI, it's mind-blowing. I mean, I can't even fathom it myself, but I know it's going to be big. We're already starting to see so many of these kind of, trajectories in terms of GLP-1s. Everybody's losing weight. And, you got people like Brian Johnson out there like showing, reverse aging. And there's a lot of ways to get exposure to this, and I think the ARKG is great. There's a couple other ETFs out there as well. In addition to the ARKG, you could find some of these small companies. Tempest AI is another interesting company. So that's kind of where we are right now. But I just wanted to fixate people on this $700 billion profit number Micron and Nvidia are still set to make in 2026, and then just how much more revenue they're projected to make in 2027, just to showcase how early we still are. So don't let these little pullbacks fool you. I remember late last year in 2025, there was a large crowd, not everybody, but there was a large crowd of people saying the AI trade's over, get out, run for the hills, put yourself back into these boring stocks, into these consumer names like, get into Target, get into Walmart, get into Home Depot, the trade's over, the fun's over. Those people could not have been more wrong. If you listen to those people in late 2025, you just missed out on tons of gains. Because here we are halfway in 2026. All those stocks that they said were done running have continued to run. This AI build out, it is not like a dot-com bubble, okay? It's nothing near that. The dot-com bubble was completely different. There was a bunch of people that were just slapping .com on their name, a la pets.com, with no business. There's real business. There's real numbers behind this build out. These hyperscalers, Facebook and Google, I mean, they're spending hundreds of billions of dollars. This is not a facade. This is not like a dream. This is real. And whether you like it or not, the AI build out is going to proliferate, and we can take advantage of it as investors. So appreciate y'all for watching. If you like what we're putting out here on the channel, please do subscribe. Does mean a lot to us. We just crossed over 500 subscribers on the new channel, trying to continue to kind of push different types of content out there within this AI build out and this tech revolution, so we can take advantage of it and create better lives for us and our families. So do appreciate it. We'll see y'all in the next one. Take care. Bye.